Abba-dabby dude! Hi there, this is Abba-dabby dude. Welcome back. And today it's a chewing the fat video. It's quite a rare series of videos, this one, but it's the series in which I go off into the wider world of EVs and move outside of my usual IPace bubble. And today's video is about today's announcement by Thierry Bolloré, the CEO of Jaguar, that from 2025 Jaguar will become a fully electric brand. That's massive. That's 4 years from now. That's massive. So let's start with, do I think it's a good thing? Yes. Right, so moving on to my second point. Why do I think it's a good thing? Well, obviously, if Jaguar is going to exist, Jaguar Land Rover is going to exist, let's say 10 years from now, 9 years from now, they have to be fully electric. The same applies to BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, you name it. Okay? Because from 2030, the UK will be fully electric. Most countries will be heading towards it or there. Certainly in the developed world, and it will become impossible and illegal to sell ICE vehicles brand new in most of those countries. Okay, Britain 2030, some other countries are 2035, some are 2040, but Britain and Europe are Jaguar's main market, really. They have quite a strong presence in China. But again, electric vehicles are very mainstream in China. I'm not sure what the timescale is for banning ICE vehicles in China. If you know that one, maybe leave me a comment down below. I'm sure they have one. But BEVs are hugely popular in China regardless. So any company that wants to maintain a market presence in China has to go electric. So for that reason and that reason alone, Jaguar has to go electric. Otherwise, they just won't exist. So if you're a Jaguar fan, you need to be for this, or the company will die. Now, I'm sure the media is full of the usual comments in their online publications. Depending on the publication, I can hear them now. There'll be multiples. There will be some people in favour, obviously. But depending on the publication, the comment section will either be, yeah, but the infrastructure isn't ready. The national grid will collapse if everybody has an electric car and plugs it in at the same time. Just moving the emissions from the tailpipe to the power station brigade will be out in force, even though electricity generation has moved on in leaps and bounds over the last 10 years. There will be, obviously the Tesla fanboys will be out in force saying, why are you even bothering? You'll never be as good as Tesla, and Tesla will destroy every mainstream vehicle manufacturer within the next 5 years anyway. What other options will there be? Oh yeah, I'm not going to buy an electric car until it can go 700 miles and recharge in 30 seconds. You'll never beat the sound of a V8. Oh yeah, all of those. I know the world is going to be full of those comments at the moment, but simple fact is, doesn't matter what you think, electrification is coming, and the companies that don't embrace it won't be around. Now, 4 years is an aggressive timescale for a company with one electric vehicle in its lineup. However, Jaguar can be a very nimble company when they choose to be. Look at how quickly they moved the IPace from concept to production vehicle. And it was never even going to be a production vehicle. It was originally just a concept. But it proved so popular, they decided to produce a production version, and they did it in an amazingly short time scale. So they're capable of doing this. Now, the presentation itself was very buzzwordy. There were a lot of buzzwords in there, and it was quite difficult to pick out his exact meaning at times. There was a lot of real-time optimized, just-in-time strategies moving forward kind of talk. And at one point, it almost sounded like he was suggesting just that by 2025 there would be an electrified version of every vehicle. But then he distinctly said fully electric by 2025. So I'm going to take him on his word at that and assume that that's what he meant, that from then all Jaguars will be fully electric. Now, in there was the bombshell, which I've kind of hinted at up till now. I've been getting words and rumours and sort of insider information that the XJ was not going to come to market. Originally I was told it was delayed, then I was told it may never surface at all, and within the presentation he did confirm the XJ does not form a part of Jaguar's future plans. So TLDR, the XJ has been binned. Now, a lot of people will wonder why. My understanding is that they were attempting to produce it on a platform that could be used across the JLR ranges. And there was a bit of a tug of war going on between the Land Rover side and the Jaguar side as to what was required from the platform. And it ended up being a little bit too compromised for either side to be fully happy with it. That's a short version. And there were a lot more intricacies involved in that. But my understanding is that's the gist of why it has ended up not going forward into production. I know someone who has driven it, and he said it was a phenomenal vehicle and was blown away by it. So that bodes well for the future. And obviously, all the development work that went into that doesn't get binned. Bits of it will be used going forward, the same as bits of the IPace will be used in the next generation of Jaguar electric vehicles. So the research hasn't been wasted, and it will become relevant in some shape or form in whatever vehicles they have going forward. I'm personally gutted because I really wanted to see the electric XJ, and it was actually quite a strong contender for my next car, depending obviously on what the final version actually looked like, but and what the specs were, but it was looking like a strong contender for me. Now, I'm in no hurry to replace my car. I've only had it 2 years, and I'll probably keep it for 5 or 6 before I even think about replacing it. But the XJ would have been a good contender for me. So that's a shame. So what are we going to see from Jaguar? Well, strong rumours about the J-Pace coming, which is going to be a more traditional SUV-shaped type vehicle, I believe. Purely battery electric. An electric F-Type has been strongly rumoured for a while now, and I will be stunned if that does not come to market. Electric XE and XF, well, there has to be something within that range, so I don't know if we'd see both, but certainly I think an XF, an electric XF, is a strong contender. And we'll probably see an IPace, an electrified IPace at some point, or an electric IPace at some point. But yeah, I mean, if they come out with a platform, and there was discussion of a common platform going forward as well, I've a sneaky suspicion we'll see separate platforms for the Jaguar brand and the Land Rover brand for reasons that I just mentioned, but that's just my guess. I've not had any information on that fact. But yeah, I think once if they produce a platform, obviously it makes development of a vehicle quite a quick process. So by 2025, it is a very real possibility that this will not just be a PR stunt, it will be a reality. So yeah, while it's an aggressive timescale, it's achievable. And of course, let's remember, Jaguar and Land Rover are smallish brands on the global scheme of things. They don't have a huge model range anyway. So it's not like, I don't know, the VW group or Volkswagen Audi group saying we're going to electrify all our vehicles, because that's Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Skoda, Seat, that's a lot of individual cars. Jaguar Land Rover has actually quite a small model range that it needs to do to go fully electric. What other little snippets were there in there? Well, controversially, the fact that Jaguar Land Rover are working on fuel cell vehicles to bring to market. Now, again, I've known about this for a little while. I have mentioned it in the past on the odd video. It's controversial because a lot of EV people are like, well, hydrogen's a waste of time. And I understand the arguments, but I can see the arguments on both sides. What I will say is I think it's wise of Jaguar to hedge their bets. And I think it makes a degree of sense for any vehicle company to allocate some of their R&D budget to alternative technologies. Because if by some series of events that technology takes off and becomes mainstream, then the companies that haven't invested in it would have lost out. Whereas if it doesn't go mainstream, it just becomes a bit of the R&D budget that gets binned. And companies, tech companies, car companies, probably washing machine companies, all have certain R&D programs which never see the light of day. That's how it goes. So I think it does make a lot of sense for them to have an R&D budget looking into hydrogen fuel cells. I think it especially makes sense in certain segments of the business, particularly I'm thinking of the Range Rover side of the business, where it's going to be very difficult to produce a very efficient, competitively priced electric Range Rover because they're heavy. They're very luxurious, but they're very heavy. And that makes range compromised and battery size compromised. And the bigger the battery, the heavier the vehicle. And you end up having to have bigger batteries just to carry around the bigger battery. So to an extent, I can see why they are looking into this. You've also got to remember, that some markets around the world, electrification may not be ideal. I mean, the South African grid, for example, struggles as it is. They have brownouts and blackouts on a regular basis. There's that proportion of society which doesn't have off-street parking, can't have a home charger. I know there's solutions coming, but Jaguar are just hedging their bets and saying, maybe hydrogen will play a part in this electric future of ours, and maybe we should look into it. I don't think the R&D for hydrogen fuel cell production vehicles is a particularly expensive route to go down, because it does share certain commonalities with other programs, both electric and ICE, in the actual development of the overall product. So, certain elements of it are shared with a battery electric research and development program anyway. So the actual costs, I think, of a fuel cell development program aren't that high to rule it out as an avenue to at least go down and explore. So I can see why they're doing it. I think they're also getting subsidies from certain national governments who are contributing towards Jaguar's research, or Jaguar Land Rover's research into fuel cell development or fuel cell vehicles. I'm not sure if they're developing their own fuel cells. I strongly suspect they're buying them in from somewhere. So yeah, the fuel cell was a bit out there for some people, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments about what a pointless waste of time it is, based on a single statement made by one man 8, 9, 10 years ago. But hey, I'm for anything that gives us a greener future, and if companies want to spend some of their money researching alternative technologies, I don't see why we should prevent them from doing that. It's no bad thing. And I get very perplexed at how worked up some people get about and aggressive about being anti-hydrogen fuel cell. I'm a believer that in certain elements of our energy future, hydrogen will play a big role, whether that's in passenger vehicles, light goods vehicles, heavy goods vehicles, shipping, aviation, space exploration, domestic heating, industrial power generation. I don't know. I'm not enough of an expert or at all an expert to be able to say that, but I do think it has a role to play going forward in decarbonising our future. And I don't think it's a bad thing for any company to be exploring it at the very least. So that's my thoughts on the hydrogen debate. You also see a lot of discussion about efficiency versus electric and so on, but a lot of the charts that are produced are very out of date, you know, and you could produce a 20-year-old chart showing that battery density wasn't good enough to produce an EV that had meaningful range and good charging times. But yet here we are with 20 years later with EVs with good battery technology, meaningful range and good charging times. So, you know, technology moves on, give it a chance is my feeling on the matter. So yeah, I think that's most of what I have to say on this one. I think it's a positive step. I think it's an aggressive timeline, but I think that's not a bad thing. I think setting yourself aggressive timelines forces companies to address the issues, and quite often it's too easy to say, well, if 2030 is the date where we need to move to ICE cars, EVs, and can't sell any more ICE cars, then let's make that our date. And by doing that, you end up kicking the can down the road, and you make a lot of bad choices going forwards because you have too much time to think about it, too many focus groups, too many meetings, and you end up with a compromised product. Sometimes I feel it's better to put a strict deadline on it because it focuses people's minds on what's actually important and gets you to the goal in a more direct route, rather than saying, oh, well, we've got 9 years. Let's have a look at this battery technology or that battery technology. And you end up meandering around, you compromise your design, and you come out at the end of it not quite ready. Whereas by doing it this way, I think it just focuses everybody on a date where they go, whoa, we've got 4 years, let's do this. And you quite often get it done. It also allows them a bit of a buffer. So if they hit a roadblock or a snag, it means that they can have a slight delay, you know, and if it gets pushed back by a year, well, okay, it's pushed back by a year, which isn't ideal, but they're still well within the 2030 deadline, for example. I know the hybrid debate is still, I think hybrids are still 2035 in this country, but they said full electric. They didn't say electrified. He said full electric. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's good to see. I'm hoping that it will ignite Jaguar's sales when the time comes, and it will light a fire under some other vehicle manufacturers to say, whoa, Jaguar's sales are taking off. Have we missed the boat? That's my personal hope, is that Jaguar, much like the IPace did to a certain extent, it beat a lot of other companies to market, and it did cause a certain stir within that luxury vehicle segment, and a lot of companies came to market after Jaguar. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't have done it without Jaguar, but I do wonder if it made them bring forward some of their plans, especially when the IPace started winning so many awards left, right and centre, and was you know, just causing so much of a stir. So that's another good thing about the aggressive timescale, is that I hope it will light a fire, shall we say, under, metaphorically speaking, of course, under some of the other auto manufacturers, and we'll see electrification proceeding at pace. So that's my thoughts. I think it's a good thing. I think the future is electric, and I don't think that's something to be feared. I think hydrogen could play a role. I think battery will definitely play a role, a very big role. And even if hydrogen does become a part of the passenger vehicle market, I think battery electric will always be the bigger segment of the two. But I can see use cases where hydrogen could make more sense potentially, and therefore I wouldn't rule it out. But I think battery electric for passenger vehicles really will become the norm, shall we say, will become the larger part of that segment of the motor industry, if you like. And I think it's a great thing. As I've said, I would never go back to petrol or diesel. It's antiquated, it's out of date, and it's time to move on. And I fully embrace what Jaguar announced today, and I think it is a great thing. But as ever, let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I'm up for discussions on this one. And if you've got any other snippets of information that you're aware of, either with this news or related news, let me know down below. If you've enjoyed it, then do give me a thumbs up. It hugely helps the channel and it costs you nothing. Also, if you're enjoying my content generally, please do subscribe. And if you want to do that, you can do it right now by clicking on my ugly little face over there. And you can also check out some of my other videos like this one up here. Till next time, this is Abu Dhabi Dude saying so long, take care, see you soon. Bye. Abu Dhabi Dude.